for today's session. So we will be discussing on five general linear models, that is GLM1, ANOVA, then GLM2, ANCOVA, or the analysis of variance, GLM3, that is factorial ANOVA, GLM4, that is repeated measures ANOVA, and GLM5, that is mixed design ANOVA. So you see that ANOVA is not only one-way ANOVA. One-way ANOVA is only GLM model 1, generalized linear model 1, that is one-way ANOVA. Else we have other generalized linear models like ANCOVA, factorial ANOVA, repeated measures ANOVA, mixed design ANOVA, and that is GLM5. And we'll be discussing each one by one. So all these ANOVAs stands for analysis of variance, but first we need to understand what exactly the variance is. Variance is basically the variation from the mean. Let's say you computed the age of 10 people, and that comes to be the mean age comes out to be, let's say, 32 years. But every individual age is different. Let's say somebody is of 35 years. So the variance will be of 3. So this ANOVA or generalized linear models, they all measure these variances. So you have people from different age groups. What is the variance in those age groups? That exactly we measure. And here we have more than two groups. So as I said that in life, we are, or in every aspect of life, sometimes we come across more than two choices. If there are two choices, two situations, then t-test is better. But if what if three or more situations are there, then comes the role of analysis of variances. When you have more than two or three or more than three situations or groups of the same independent variable, or in some cases you might be having two independent variable also. So general formula for this, if I talk of variance, is given by S square is equal to sigma xi minus x bar square by n minus 1, where x is the value of the ith term. Please mute yourself if somebody's speaker mic is on. Where xi is the value of the ith term, means x bar is the mean of all the, somebody's mic is on and it's echoing, please mute. Okay, x bar is the mean of all the observations and n is the number of observations. So through this formula, this S square is the variance. Now ANOVA is a way of explaining the ratio of systematic variance to unsystematic variance. And what is variance? That already I have told you, the deviation from the mean, variation from the individual observations, variation from the mean of all the observations. So this ANOVA is a way of explaining the ratio of systematic variance to unsystematic variance in an experimental study. And the ratio of these two systematic and unsystematic variances is known as the F ratio. So normally in ANOVA we calculate the F ratio. Now, what is the logic behind the F ratio? See, if the differences between the group means can be expressed as a linear model, why? That's why we call it as a generalized linear model, because ANOVA has a very close relationship with the linear regression equation. We use this ANOVA to see whether our equation or our model, regression model, fits or not. That's why when you will perform regression, you will also find ANOVA table along with that. That will be produced. So that is the logic behind the F ratio, is that if differences between group means can be expressed as a linear model, I think you know, y is equal to b0 plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2, means x and y are linearly associated with each other. So if there is they can be associated as a linear model, then we can test these differences with an F ratio. And F ratio is the ratio of how good the model is compared to how bad it can be. Means the fitness of good of the model compared to the error term, that is the F ratio. Means ratio of the systematic variance and unsystematic variance, that is also known as the error. So when the model is based on group means, our predictions from the model are those means. If the group means are the same, there is no difference between the group means, then our ability to predict the observed data will be poor. Means the F ratio will be small because there is no much difference between the group means. But if the means differ significantly, then we will be able to better discriminate between cases from different groups. And in this case, the F ratio will be large. So in this context, F ratio basically tells us whether the group means are different or they are the same. So this one-way ANOVA compares the means of 3 or more independent groups, and each group represents a different level of single independent variable. And when we frame the null hypothesis in the ANOVA, if I'm talking of ANOVA, I'm talking of one-way ANOVA, the GLM1, that several populations being sampled all have the same mean. Means suppose if you have uh, 3 groups or more than 3 groups from where you are taking observations, then the null hypothesis is that there is no significant difference between the means of these groups. And that's why this ANOVA and all GLM models, we call them as comparing several means. Till independent and paired sample t-test, we call comparing two means. In this case, all types of GLM models, we say it's about comparison of several means. So first null hypothesis that we make is that the population that are being sampled, means the sample that we are drawing from the population, their mean value are same. There exists no significant difference among the groups. And since the variance is based on the deviations from the mean value, that's why we call it as the analysis of variance to test our hypothesis. And as I already said, the test statistic that we see in ANOVA is the F ratio, and it is the ratio of the two variances, that is the good variance versus the bad variance, or the systematic or the unsystematic variance. So this is about ANOVA. Now let's see our case problem. So, and how to do it. So first thing you have to say that you have one dependent variable, one independent variable. Dependent variable is the outcome, independent variable is the predictor variable, and divided into 3 or more categories or groups. Then we will apply one-way ANOVA. So if you see this decision tree, is this visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is overall decision tree on the basis of which we take the decision that which test to apply. So let's say if you have one outcome variable means one dependent variable, continuous in nature, one predictor variable, and that predictor variable means independent variable. That is also categorical in nature. And if it's more than two, it's categorical in nature, and then move on to the next. Categorical predictor, how many categories? More than two. Are they from the same participant or different participant? If they are from the different participants, okay, means different groups, and they follow the assumptions of parametric test, that is normality, then you will go for one way independent ANOVA or one way ANOVA, what we call. So if you have to check that which test to apply, you can refer to this uh, sheet or this decision tree table. I hope I have shared with you. If not shared, I'll send you again. So if you have one outcome variable, that is one dependent variable, that outcome is continuous, means metric or means it's metric taken on a ratio or interval scale. And if you have one predictor variable, means one independent variable, that is categorical in nature, means ordinal or nominal in nature, and is having more than two categories, and these two categories are from different participants, means different groups, and follow the assumptions of parametric test, that is follows the normality, then one way ANOVA. So let's see our case. So in a class of 30 students, 10 students each were randomly assigned to three different methods of memorizing word list. Now we have created three groups. So in the first method, the student was instructed to repeat the word silently when it was presented. In the second method, the student was instructed to spell the word backward and visualize the backward word and to pronounce it silently. The third method required the student to associate each word with a strong memory. Each student saw the same 10 words flashed on a computer screen for 5 seconds each. The list was repeated in random order until each word has been presented a total of 5 times. A week later, students were asked to write down as many of the words that they could recall. Now you have three groups, means 10 each, and then three methods of memorizing the words. If you have to test that which of the group has performed better, is there any difference between the group means or in the memorizing capacity of the students when they are divided into three groups and then three different methods? Now see which method is better. To test this, we can use one way ANOVA because we have one outcome variable, that is the memorizing capacity, that is continuous. We have one predictor variable drawn from same population but divided into three categories, and it's categorical in nature. Following the normality, that is the assumption of parametric test. So in this case, which group performs better? We can use one way ANOVA. So to use one way ANOVA, I would suggest you to open this file glm1.sav. Once opened, please let me know. Is it open? Should I proceed for the analysis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please let me know once the file is open. Okay, so simply go to analyze, compare means, and one way ANOVA. Now you have the participant, recall, and method. So we want to measure the recall method, the recall and the method used. How whether they were able to recall those words, and which of the method out of the three proved to be better method. So we will take this recall as dependent, method as factor. Now here we will be given three options, four options. Bootstrapping I am not discussing as of now. When your data is not normal, then you can bootstrap. That will be covering in regression or correlation. Contrast is used when you already have a hypothesis. See, because ANOVA will tell you that these three methods differs from each other. But which of the method differs? Because let's say we have three groups, group 1, group 2, group 3. ANOVA will tell, and here our group is based on method. So ANOVA will tell you that yes, there is a significant difference or there might not be significant difference between the three methods, but which method is having better, you can say, significance, that can be through only multiple, that can be performed only through multiple comparisons. Means comparing method 1, 2 and 3 with each other. Now if you have to compare method 1, 2 and 3 with each other, one thing that you can do is to perform a t-test on the three methods separately. First compare group 1 or method 1 with method 2, then method 2 with method 3 and method 1 and with method 3, and see. But see, whenever you perform any statistical test, there are chances of error. None of the model, see, every outcome is equal to model plus error. There is always some error term. Now you are performing it three times, so inflation of error might be more, because three times you are doing, three times you will be getting. Yes, in the first model you will get some error, in the second model you will get some error, in the third outcome also you will get some error. So rather than we compare all of them simultaneously, either using the contrast method or the post hoc method, and these are known as multiple comparisons. Contrast method is used when you have already hypothesized that this group might differ from the other two. When you are aware, like case that you have given, you have three group of people suffering from fever. To one group you have given allopathic medicine, to another one you have given an Ayurvedic medicine, and to third one you have given a placebo, means dummy medicine containing no medicine, just a tablet or capsule having no any active medication. So in this case, you already know that the placebo won't have any effect on treatment of fever. It will significantly differ from Ayurvedic treatment and allopathic treatment. So already you have hypothesized. Then for multiple comparison, you can use the contrast method. When you are unaware that which of the group will differ from the other group, then you will go for post hoc method. Along with that, you have to also check for homogeneity of variance, because when you are checking homogeneity, when you are checking variances, there should be homogeneity of variances in ANOVA. So first thing that we will do is go for post hoc. So normally in social sciences and all this one way ANOVA, we use the Tukey method for post hoc or multiple comparison. Continue, okay. Contrast we are not taking because we haven't hypothesized. We don't know which method will perform better. If we are knowing, Means we have priori hypothesis about difference in the group, and we know we could guess out that which group will differ, then contrast, otherwise post hoc. In the options, go for homogeneity of variance test. Now you will find that there is two more things: Brown, Forsyth, and Welch. So let's say if there is no homogeneity of variance coming in your model, then you can use the more robust methods, because this homogeneity of variance test use Levin's statistic, Levin's test of homogeneity of variance. But if it is unable to render result and it shows that homogeneity of variance is not there, then you can check it by more robust method, either by Welch method or Brown Forsyth method. However, as of now, I am checking it with homogeneity of Levin's test. Continue, click OK. Now you can see that is ANOVA table. First is the Levin's. In Levin's table, you can see that the null hypothesis stands accepted. Just please excuse me for a minute. Somebody is knocking. So if you see this Levin's statistic, it clearly shows that the significance is 0.915, more than 0.05. Our null hypothesis was that there is a homogeneity of variance, that stands accepted, and we can say that there is a homogeneity of variance, so no need to go for Welch or any other test. There is a homogeneity of variance, it's good to go with ANOVA. So ANOVA will be significant. Now here we can see that significance level is 0.000, means null hypothesis is rejected. Null hypothesis was saying that there is no difference among the means of the three groups or three methods. Now it's saying there is a, since it is rejected, so there is a significant difference. The statistic we report is the F ratio. So we will write here F, and we get two kind of degree of freedom. First one is between the groups degree of freedom and within the groups. So between groups degree of freedom is number of groups minus 1, and the remaining will be your degree of freedom within the groups. So let me keep the pen with me. It will be better to write. So you can write like F at degree of freedom 227 is equal to 18.315. P is less than 0.05. Null hypothesis rejected. Means there is difference between the three methods. But ANOVA is able to explain only this much. Which group differs significantly, that will be told by this multiple comparison or the post hoc method. You see, multiple comparisons. So if you closely watch method 1, method 2, significance is 0.003. Means method 1 differs significantly from method 2. Method 1 significantly differs from method 3. If you do, there is a significant difference between 1 and 2, method 1 and 2. Also, there is a significant difference between method 1 and 3. In the second table also, since 1 and 2, you can see here there is a significant difference. However, there is no significant difference between method 2 and 3 because the value is 0.73. So overall, you can say that method 1 differs significantly from method 2 and 3. However, method 2 does not differ from method 3. So if we compare 1 with method 2 and 3, there will be significant difference. If we compare method 2 and 3, there won't be any significant difference among them. Is that clear?
Sir, repeat once more.
See, ANOVA table is able to tell you only that there is just a significant difference among the groups or not. That's why we have performed a multiple comparison method also, which will tell which group differs from, because ANOVA will tell only this 0.000 null hypothesis rejected. Null hypothesis was that all the group means are equal. But since it is rejected, it will say that there is a significant difference between the three groups or the three methods that we have taken for students learning. Means these three methods, they significantly differ in the recall capacity of the students. But which group differs from another one, that we can see only through multiple comparisons. There are two kinds of multiple comparisons: post hoc method and this contrast method. So contrast method we use when we know, when we are aware of, we already have hypothesized that a particular group will differ. Like I have taken the example of placebo medicine, that if there is no medicine in the tablet, you know that yes, it won't have any significant effect. In that case, you can go for contrast method. If you don't know which of the group will differ from each other, then go for post hoc methods. Now, if you see this post hoc method, it has compared the three groups. Now, what I said, you can do it the other way around. You can do independent sample t-test 3 times. First, between 1 and 2, then between 2 and 3, then between 1 and 3. But why we don't do that? Reason being, whenever you do any statistical modeling, any outcome is equal to model plus error. So if you are performing 3 times for measuring the same thing, the difference between the means of the three groups, you have to perform 3 times in t-test, the chances of or the inflation of error will be high. So as to minimize it, we do multiple comparison in one go. And ANOVA gives you that flexibility, that option by post hoc method. Now here if you see 1 and 2, significance is 0.0003, means null hypothesis rejected, means there exists a significant difference between method 1 and 2 when it comes to the recall capacity of the student. Then you compare 1 and 3, you see it's 0.000, means again there is a significant difference between method 1 and 3. So if method 1 compared to 2 and 3 shows a significant difference. So in this case 2 and 1 already we have seen. But when it comes to comparing method 2 and 3, there is no significant difference. So overall we can say that if we apply method 1 and method 2 to the students, okay, and what was our method 1 and 2? Let's see. Method 1 was, a student was instructed to repeat the word silently. When it was presented, method 2 was, the student was instructed to spell the word backward and visualize the backward word and pronounce it silently. So we are saying that first and second method if we use, then it will be, the effect on the student recall will be significantly different as compared to the third method. And third method will differ from the method 1, but if compared with method 2, it won't show any significant difference. You can see from the table method 2 and 3 doesn't have any significant difference. So you can use either method 2 or method 3 for students learning. But when it comes to method 1, it significantly differs from method 2 and 3. Am I clear on this?
Okay, sir.
So you can use this multiple comparison table and see that whether there exists a significant difference between all the three groups or not. So So we came to know that yes, group 1 differs from 2 and 3. However, group 2 and 3 does not differ. So if we have to choose the method, we can either choose the method 1 or we can choose the method. And when it comes to choosing whether we should choose method 2 or 3, you can choose any of these methods because there exists no significant difference. They don't show any significant difference on the learning, sorry, on the this uh, learning capacity or the recall capacity of the students. So you can choose, first you have to choose, and out of second and third you can choose any. Hope this is clear. Should I move forward? Is this clear? Please tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Now, calculating the effect size. Now, effect size in ANOVA. So you will report ANOVA like this. F in these bigger brackets. Sorry. So you will report it like this. F 227, because here you have 2 degrees of freedom, is equal to 18.315. At this value, P is less than 0.05. H not rejected, which says that there is a difference between the three methods. Further, we will explore that which group differs among each other by doing this post hoc comparisons using Tucky HSD method. And finally, we'll find from this table that group 1 and 2, group 1 differs from 2 and 3, however 2 and 3 does not differ from each other. If you compare the values 0.073 more than 0.05, so there is no significant difference between 2 and 3. Now calculating the effect size, how much it has the effect on the population. So R square is equal to SSM by SST, where SSM, if you see, this table, SSM is the sum of squares between the group and SST is the sum of total squares. Okay, total sum of squares. So if you put this into the formula, it will be equal to SSM 112.467 upon 195.367. This comes out to be, let me calculate this. .467 divided by 195.367. This equal to 0.57. This is the value of R square. So if you have to calculate R, it will be under root 0.57, which equals to Has anybody calculated? It will be equal to 0.75. So the effect size is equal to 75%. So you can report that there is a significant effect on the of the groups or the different type of learning techniques on the recall ability of the students with the effect size of with a high effect size of 75%. However, let me clarify one thing, that this measure of effect size is slightly biased because it is based purely on the sum of squares from the sample, and no adjustment is made for the fact that we are trying to estimate the effect size in the population, because whenever we estimate effect size, it's on the population. However, this effect size is coming just from the sum of squares from the sample. That's why it's somewhat biased. So when we do ANOVA, then we use a more complex, because this is the normal method of calculating the effect size. But when we do ANOVA, since we have to generalize it on the population, we often use a slightly complex measurement known as omega square. So it is like this, omega square, and formula is SSM minus DFM into MSR upon SST plus MSR. First, let me remove the other things. So that we can get some space to calculate. Or let me think there should be erase at once. Clear screen. Right. Now let me write the formula. We use complex. Why we use omega? Because already I have said, since the previous R square method is based on sum of squares from the sample. However, we want to calculate the effect size on the population, so we calculate it using omega square. So omega square is equal to SSM minus DFM into MSR upon SST plus MSR, where SSM, sum of squares between group, SST, sum of squares total, degree of freedom, DFM is the degree of freedom, and in this case, it is the degree of freedom for the effect. So degree of freedom for the effect will always be total number of effects or groups minus 1. So it will be 2. Then this is the MSR is the mean square. Okay. So you can see it's this one within groups mean square 3.070. Now we will calculate the effect size using this formula. Omega square is equal to SSM 112.467 minus 2 into MSR, that is 3.070 upon SST, that is 195.367 plus MSR 3.070 is equal to 112.467 plus 2 into 3.070, it comes out to be 2 into 3.070, 6.14 plus 6.14 upon 195.367 plus 3.070 is equal to 198.437. 198.437 is equal to, so 112.467 plus 6.14 is equal to 118.607 divided by 198.437. This will be equal to 0.597, and now the value of omega will be under root 0.597 is equal to, let's see what it comes out to be, square root of 0.597. It comes out to be 77.772. Now you can see that your effect size has improved to 77.2%. So better use omega square for calculating the effect size. Is that clear? Is that clear? Should I move ahead? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So should I move ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Now, closing this. Moving to the second GLM, generalized linear model, that is ANCOVA. So this ANOVA can be extended to include one or more continuous variables. In ANOVA, we can include one or more continuous variable that predict the outcome or the dependent variable. Now, continuous variables such as these that we have included from the outside that were not the part of the experimental study or not the part of the main experiment, but they are not the part of the main experiment but have an influence on the outcome or the dependent variable. These are known as the covariates. So covariates are those extraneous variables which we bring in the which are not the part of the main experiment, but they have effect on the outcome or the dependent variable. So they are known as covariates, and that's why when we measure these covariates and we include them in the main analysis of variance, we call it as the analysis of covariance or ANCOVA, which is the GLM2. And it is used basically to reduce within group error variance and also eliminate confounding results. Now let's see with the decision tree how we arrive at applying ANCOVA. So we have one outcome variable that is continuous in nature. We have two or more predictor variable means two or more. You have to see whether we have one continuous one. No, if we have two or more predictor variable, okay, now your predictor variable or your independent variable is two or more than that. Yes, in the previous one we were having one dependent and one independent variable and one dependent. Or let's simplify it. Your independent variable is predictor. Your dependent variable is outcome. So if you have one outcome that is continuous in nature, two or more predictor variables, and if they are categorical or continuous, means they are both either continuous or categorical, and if they follow the assumptions of normality, then you can go for either multiple regression or ANCOA. Because all these ANOVA and COA, they have similarity with the regressions. So either you can apply multiple regression or ANCOA. Now let's see our case. So here the analysis of covariance is the blending of regression and analysis of variance. And it is possible to perform an ANCOA using the GLM procedure in SPSS. We'll see how to apply the GLM procedure. An entirely equivalent analysis is also possible using hierarchical regression. Hierarchical regression is a part of multiple regression. That's why I said you can either apply multiple regression or ANCOA. So the choice is left to the user and his or her preference that what they want to choose. So this ANCOA is statistically equivalent to matching experimental groups with respect to the variable or variables being controlled or covariate. Okay. So let's see our case. Now assume that you are comparing performance in a statistics class taught by two different methods. Students in one class, now you see two different methods creates two predictor variables. Okay, so predictor variable is more than two. Performance is the outcome, one dependent variable. So assume, let's see the case. Assume that you are comparing performance in a statistics class taught by two different methods. Students in one class are instructed in the classroom, while students in the second class take their classes online. Both classes are taught by the same instructor, use the same textbook, exams and assignment. At the beginning of the term, all students take a test of quantitative ability, pre-test, and at the end, their score on the final exam is recorded, that is in the form of post-test. Because the two classes are intact, it is not possible to achieve experimental control. So this is a quasi-experimental design. Now assume that you would like to compare the scores of the two groups on the final score while controlling for initial quantitative ability. So this initial quantitative ability of the student was serving as a covariate, which you want to control, and you want to compare the scores for the two groups. Means one taking online class, another taking offline class on their final score. Is the problem clear to you?
Yes, sir.
So the performance is measured in the terms of final score. You have, that is the outcome. You have two predictor variables, online group and offline students taking class. And see, their scores could be affected by their initial quantitative ability, their initial learning about quantitative techniques. So we are keeping that initial quantitative ability, which is serving as a covariate, here we are controlling it. And then we will see what is the effect. So if this is the situation that within your dependent and independent variable, there is also some extraneous variable that is affecting the results, then you will control it. And basically that is known as, because that's not part of your experiment, but that is affecting the dependent variable. Initial quantitative ability of the student could affect their scores. It can affect the outcome. So you have to keep a control of this covariate or the covariance. In that case, you will apply ANCOA. Or you can apply hierarchical multiple regression also. When we'll be doing regression, we'll be seeing this. As of now, let's apply ANCOA. So for this, open the file glm2. So the file is here, glm2. I have named them as per the GLM models. So you have the participants, pre-test, post-test, and the method, online versus offline. So you want to see the scores on post-test, okay, final scores. Now, before you jump on doing ANOVA, you can perform between group t-test to examine the overall differences between the two groups on the final exam. Because you have two groups only, so you can also perform a t-test to see the difference between the two groups on the final exam. And let's do it. So simply go to analyze, this compare means, independent sample t-test, and take this overall score as a test variable and method as a grouping variable. Define groups as 1 and 2. 1, 2, because we have two groups. Continue. Okay. So here you can see, and you can see that either you take equal variances assumed or equal variances not assumed, you see that there is a difference among the groups, because on the overall scores, whether they are taking online or and offline, the method have effect on their scores, because p is less than 0.05. So there exists a significant difference between the two methods. If you take see the mean value, you will find that in the offline exams, students have scored 74 point. When they were taught offline, sorry, when they were taught online, let me see whether we have put this category here or not. Variable view, I think no category. So here one is actually the online exam and two is the offline exam, or sorry, online instruction and offline instruction. So when they were given online instruction, their mean score in the final exam was 74.67. When offline exam, the mean score was 89, and here significant difference exists. Now let's do ANCOA, because here we also want to control their initial this uh, initial quantitative ability also. So ANCOA could be performed by univariate, uh, generalized linear model. So you can go
One
to,
more thing I want to ask you.
yes,
That means method two is much better than method one.
yes, method 2 is better than method 1.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay, now see, here we have just performed an independent sample t-test, but there is something, there is their initial quantitative ability, pre-test. What about this? So we have to control this. Are you getting my point? So independent sample t-test is just giving you an overview that both the methods have different effect on student score. It will be too early to say that method 1 is better than method 2 or method 2 is better than method 1, because here the pre-test score means when they were introduced into the class, they were taken a test on their quantitative ability. Even this could affect the overall score. So you have to put it as a control variable. Are you getting my point? Excuse me. So please, if you are talking to me, please continue the conversation.
Yes, sir. I
So,
understand.
so on the basis of independent sample t-test, we cannot generalize which one is better method, because we have something called pre-test also, their initial quantitative ability. That's why we are going for doing this ANCOA. Otherwise, there is no need of doing ANCOA, independent sample t-test, to give the results. But we are just for having an overview, I said that let's perform an independent sample t-test just to have a general overview of the data. Now, coming to this ANCOA. So just go to this generalized linear model, click on univariate. Now, our dependent variable is final score, post test. Fixed factor is method, online versus offline. This is the factor we want to measure. We don't have any random factors. And covariate, which we want to control, the pre-test, means their initial quantitative ability. This we can check. Now we have selected our variable, dependent variable, predictor variable, and covariate. Now under options, choose this method first. Display means for method. Descriptive statistics. Now effect size. Here we need not to calculate manually. You can directly select the estimates of effect size in ANCOA. You have that option. You will get the eta square, which is the estimate of the effect size. And then click on continue. Now we want plot also. For estimated marginal means, we want plot. So select this method, horizontal axis, add it, continue. And did we selected this? See, post hoc is disabled. Why? We don't have more than 2 groups. No need of post hoc. Contrast we are not going to use. हेलो, सब थोड़ी देर में करता हूँ, सेशन में होंगे. So contrast we are not using because we don't know which of the method is better. However, we can use if we based on this independent sample t-test, we came to know this one is better or this one is different, but we don't have the control for the covariate in this case, so we won't be using contrast also. And options we have descriptive statistics and estimates of effect size. Fine. Plots we have already taken. Method on horizontal axis. This is known as this is known as profile plot that we plot. Select. Okay. Let's see. Now you see the method. F significance value is 0.000. That means that there exists a significant difference between the online and offline classes. They have different effect on the scores while controlling for the initial, because this statement you have to write, while controlling for the initial quantitative ability of the students measured in the form of pre-test, right? So what you got in independent t-test, the same you'll get here, means the score in the case of online class was 74.67, in offline class it was 89. So online students taking offline classes perform better while controlling for their initial quantitative ability. There exists a difference. This shows the significance value because method we are comparing. So F at the degree of freedom 1 and 30. Okay. So sorry, your degree of freedom will be, yes, 1 and 29 corrected total. So 1 and F at the degree of freedom, because we'll read only this one because you are comparing only method. So you can write it like, so null hypothesis was no significant difference exists between the two methods. Here you can say f at the degree of freedom 1 and 29 is equal to, because you'll see only the methods, 16.636, p is less than 0.05, h naught rejected. So significant difference exists between both the methods. Then from the mean value you can say students taking offline class perform better than students taking online classes. The effect sizes. Now here you need not to calculate the effect size. You have got the partial eta square. This is the effect size. In case of method, you have got 0.381. Simply, since it's eta square, you have to take its square root. So we have to take the square root of 0.381. So let's see how much it comes out to be. It comes out to be 0.617, means 67%. The effect size in population means from this sample you can generalize that whatever the result you are getting, it will have somewhat good population is good at 60. How much it was? 61.7%. Good at 61.7%. So while controlling, so everything is while controlling for the initial quantitative ability. Now we have plotted a profile plot also. Let's see. In profile plot, you see that the scores are improving once the student is taking method 2, that is the offline class. Are you able to see this? This profile plot, this shows that in method 2, the scores increased. As the student switches from method 1 to method 2, the scores are also increasing. Am I clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So profile plot will also be depicting the same result. Is this clear?
Okay, sir.
If any confusion, I can just tell. Any question on this? No questions. So you will report this table, results from this table also, and we will write while controlling for the initial quantitative ability measured by pretest. Their scores improved in the case of offline classes, means in second method, they perform better. And even this profile plot shows the same thing. It depicts the same thing. Now coming to the GLM model 3. Factorial ANOVA. When we perform factorial ANOVA, let's see. So, if you have one outcome variable which is continuous in nature, then two or more predictor variables, and these are categorical in nature, and they are different also. Means these predictor variable are not from the same population, they are from different populations, or they are the participants are from different category. So the previous two we have seen the participants were from the same category, now the participants are from different category. Follow the normality, then you go for independent factorial ANOVA or multiple regression. So we will be discussing on factorial ANOVA. So now in this we will introduce the two-way ANOVA with the simplest of design. So what is happening in this? Now you can see that we have one dependent variable, we have two factors actually, and each factor or this independent variable, it is divided into two groups. Okay, so different you have two groups within each. Previously we had one independent variable divided into two or more groups. Here you have two independent variable where each independent variable is further divided into two more groups. Okay, so we can think of the design as a table in which each cell represents a single independent group. Okay, and the group represent a combination of level of the two factors. So let us say that we have factor A and B, and assume that each factor has two levels. B has B1, B2, and A has A1, A2. Now you have two predictor variables, and these two predictor variable is again having two more categories. So previously we had one predictor variable into two or more categories. Now two predictor variable where two categories or more categories are there in each of the individual predictor variable. So it has two levels, and each independent group has the same number of observation. So you'll get four independent groups. So the design could be like this. So factor A divided into A1, A2, factor B divided into B1, B2. So first group will be A1, B1, second group will be A2, A1, B2, then third group will be A2, B1, fourth group will be A2, B2. So like this you have four groups. Now let's see the problem. Now assume that you are studying the effects of observing violent acts on subsequent aggressive behavior of the children, and you are interested in the kind of violence observed, a violent cartoon versus a video of real action violence. And the second factor is the amount. So first factor is the kind of violence. Let's say A is the kind of violence, further divided into two categories, violent cartoon and a real action violence. Then the second factor is amount of time children is exposed to violence. So 10 minutes and 30 minutes. So it will be like this. If you formulate it, it will be somehow like this. Let's say I'm bad at drawing. So the matrix that you will form will be something like this. So on one end you will be having kind of violence, kind of violence divided into cartoon and real action, and here will be the time divided into two more categories, 10 minutes and 30 minutes. Now you have two categories. First, your two predictor variable, kind of violence and time. Then further divided into two more categories, whether the kind of violence is a cartoon or real action violence, and time the children are exposed to a violence is 10 minutes or 30 minutes. So you will get four situations: cartoon 10 minutes, real action 10 minutes, cartoon 30 minutes, real action 30 minutes. So these will be the four combinations you will be getting. Now you randomly assign 8 children to each group. All the four groups you assign 8 children to each group. Means the first one, cartoon violence for 10 minutes, 8 children. Real violence, they are 8 other group of children observing real violence for 10 minutes. Then 8 kids, they are watching cartoon violence for 30 minutes, and another 8 children watching real action violence for 30 minutes. So now the child plays a Tetris like computer video game for 30 minutes. The game provides options for either aggressing, means fighting with other computerized player, or simply playing for points without interfering with other player. Now the program provides 100 opportunities for the player to make an aggressive choice and records the number of times the child chooses an aggressive action when the game provides the choice. Now we want to know that what will be the outcome of this combination on the aggression of the child. What is the outcome going to be? So we will perform the two-way ANOVA on this. So one-way ANOVA we have seen, now we'll be performing two-way ANOVA. So for that, you can open this GLM3. Okay. So participant, aggression, type, time. So this is the 30, since group of 8 assigned to each of the situations, so 32 participants. Then out of 100, how many times they have got aggressive, that has been measured while playing the game. Then type means kind of violence. 1 stands for cartoon, 2 stands for real action, and 1 stands for 10 minutes of exposure, 2 minutes stands for 30 minutes of exposure. Now we have to see what the outcome. What is the effect of all these on the aggressive behavior of the students? So go to analyze. We will perform two ANOVA, generalized linear model, univariate. Now dependent variable is your aggressive behavior. Fixed factors are type of violence, type of exposure, means cartoon versus type of violence is cartoon versus real action, and time of exposure is 10 minutes and 30 minutes. Okay. So if you put these into fixed factors, what will happen? That this procedure will test the main effects for time and type of violence and time, as well as their possible interaction. It will create an interaction term also. So we will specify a profile plot also. So we will go to the plots and we will take this into horizontal, this into separate lines, add. It will give you an interaction term type into time. Okay, because we also need to know, okay, that if we create an interaction term type into time, what will be the main effect on this interaction variable. So continue, and in the options, descriptive statistics, estimate of effect size, and we will take the interaction effect only, type into time. Okay, continue. Okay. Now here you can see type into time interaction effect. So this partial ETA square also, it will tell you about the effect size. So you can see that there is a significant difference in all the four cases. Okay, whether the if a kid is exposed to case one, that is cartoon violence for 10 minutes, then real violence for 10 minutes, cartoon violence for 30 minutes, real violence for 30 minutes. In all the cases, because now interaction term you see type into time, this stands significant, which says that in all the cases, their level of aggression will differ. And this will have an effect size of partiality square is 0.389. If you take the under root, it will be something around 62%. You can say 62%. So here you can write the results as F degree of freedom 131 is equal to, you have to see the interaction effect, 17.808. P is less than 0.05. Null hypothesis or H naught rejected, and H naught was there is no difference, significant difference among all the four situations. Now it says there is a significant difference among all the four situations, and at the effect size is good at under root 0.389 is equal to around 62%. It will come. The effect size is also good. Now you just see these profile plots. Now see, this blue line is for 30 minutes. Sorry, this blue line is for 10 minutes, green line is for 30 minutes. So as the time of exposure increases, the aggressive behavior of the kid increases. And as the kind of violence changes, means from cartoon violence to real violence, if he is watching cartoon violence, level of aggression is low. But the moment he is exposed to real violence, the group which is exposed to real violence, the aggressive behavior increases. And also it increases with the time. So means whether it's 10 minutes time or 30 minutes time, in all the cases, if you increase the time of exposure, then also their aggressive behavior will increase. Let's say they are watching cartoon violence and the exposure increases from 10 to 30 minutes. You can see even in case of cartoon violence with the exposure, their aggressive behavior increases. Even in case of real violence, real action violence, if the time of exposure increases, their aggressive behavior also increases. So all the four cases will be different. Okay. So from the mean also you can see, if they are watching cartoon violence for 10 minutes, aggressive behavior mean is 49. Cartoon violence for 30 minutes, significantly different, 66.25. It increases. Real violence for 10 minutes increases, different from the cartoon violence of 10 minutes. Real violence of 30 minutes, different from the real cartoon violence of 30 minutes. So irrespective of the student, whether the kid, whether he is being exposed to the cartoon violence or the real violence, and irrespective of the time, whether 10 minutes or 30 minutes, his aggressive behavior will differ in all the four situations. So normally we apply two-way ANOVA when we have two independent variables categorized into two categories, and we see that in every category whether the effect will be the same or different. This is the GLM3 or 2A ANOVA. Am I clear on this? Am I clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Now this audience seems to be our online class students, where we have to ask questions many times. Am I audible? Am I clear? Fine. Okay. So now moving on to the next GLM model. Because see, my motive is not to, it's not a course completion. My motive is that if there is any confusion, it should be solved. However, if you feel any problem, you can go through the recorded video, and yes, you can come up to me also anytime.
Okay, sir.
Sorry?
Okay, sir.
Now, GLM4, repeated measures ANOVA. So if we see this chart, when we go for the repeated measures ANOVA, okay. So if you have one predictor variable that is continuous in nature, sorry, one outcome variable continuous in nature, and one predictor variable which is categorical in nature, having more than two categories, and the categories are from the same participant, not from different participant. Means you have given three different treatments to the same kind of, to the same population or to the same participant. Let's say three different situations. And if it's normally distributed, then you will go for repeated measures ANOVA or GLM4. So you need to have one categorical variable, sorry, one outcome variable which is continuous in nature, one predictor variable which is categorical in nature. The categories are more than two, but these categories are coming from the same participants. Then you will go for, and yes, the assumption of normality is also met. Then you will go for this repeated measures ANOVA. And for repeated measures ANOVA, so let's see the situation. So the repeated measures ANOVA or within subjects ANOVA is used when there are multiple measures for each participant. Means the same participant is given with different kind of treatments, and it is conceptually useful to think of the repeated measures ANOVA as an extension of paired sample t-test. So like one way ANOVA is an extension of independent t-test. Similarly, repeated measures ANOVA is the extension of independent, paired t-test. So, and each set of observation for a subject or case serves as its own control. So this test is quite powerful. Now let's see our case. Assume that a statistics professor is interested in the effects of taking a statistics course on performance on an algebra test. She administers a 20-item college algebra test to 10 randomly selected statistics students at the beginning of the term, at the end of the term, and 6 months after the course is finished. So now you can see how it is extension of paired sample t-test. In paired sample t-test, you have only two situations, pre, post. Let's say at the start of the course and at the end of the course. Here you have more than and on the same population. Here you have more than two situations on the same sample or on the same population, like giving the algebra test at the beginning of the term, end of the term, 6 months, 1 year, like that. Means more than two. If it is there, pre and post situation is more than two. So there in paired sample t-test, we had pre and post only two categories. On the same population, here you can have many categories at different time intervals. So let's say you have many time series data, then you can go for repeated measures ANOVA. So let's see whether in all the cases their scores differs or remains the same. So when they have been given the algebra test at the beginning of the term, at the end of the term, and 6 months after the course is finished. So this data is in GLM4. So just open this file GLM4, because GLM4 is repeated measures ANOVA. So 10 participants before the course, after the course, and 6 months after the course ends. There they have been given an algebra test, and let's see whether in both the in all the three situations whether their scores will differ or not. So the null hypothesis is that in all the situations, means before the course, after the completion of the course, and 6 months after the course, when they were given the algebra test, their scores do not differ. This is the null hypothesis. Let's check how we can do this. Now you can go to generalized linear models, and this one, generalized linear model, and now here you have to select repeated measures. Till now we were selecting univariate, now here we have to select repeated measures. Now we are naming the subject factor as time, because we are measuring their performance at three different time periods, and these are at the three levels. So simply add the time. To identify, we have named it time, and three levels: before the end of the course, after the end of the course, and 6 months after the end of the course. Now, after naming the factor and specifying the number of levels, you have to add the factor and then define it. So this factor has been added already, and click on define. Now you can enter the levels one at a time by clicking on the variable name and then clicking on the right. Okay. So now this part is, we are selecting the participant. Oh, sorry, before, after. Okay. So before is 1. After is 2. And 6 months is 3. Now we have defined our variables. So that we have created in the previous step, the three levels. First level is before the end of the course, after the end of the course, and 6 months after the end of the course. We have taken. Now select options, and we want a plot for this profile plot for time, because three levels of time, we want to see how their performance change, descriptive statistics, estimates of effect size. Okay, we will select and click on continue. Okay, now here you can see that you are getting different kind of measurements. Which one to see? So we will see this sphericity assumed. This one we will see. and you can see that the F ratio is coming to be 8.149, and it is significant also. So we can write here as the result that we will report the however the F ratio is coming same in all the cases, but in some cases it might come differently. You have to report only the sphericity assumed. Only this case only you have to report. So you can report F degree of freedom 2. Okay, here you have only this one degree of freedom is 2. Let me write it more clearly. F degree of freedom 2 and 1 is equal to 8.149 at this P is less than 0.05. So H naught rejected, which states that there is a difference of scores in all the three cases. When at the start of the exam, at the start of the course, at the end of the course, and 6 months after the end of the course, with effect size in population is equal to partiality squared you have is square root of this 0.475. So if you calculate this result and generalize it to the population, it will have a, let's see how much it comes out to be, 0.475. It comes out to be 69% around. So 68.9, 0.689, that will transform to around 69%. So a good effect size of 69%. So there is a significant difference between their algebra scores when they were subjected to the exam at the start of the course, at the end of the course, and 6 months after the end of the course. Their scores in algebra exam changes, and if you calculate this in the overall population, the effect size will be 69%. And you can see from the profile plot also. Where is the profile plot? Okay. This we have defined already. Plots we have, okay. Plots we haven't taken. Add, continue, okay. Now see the profile plot. At different time, this is changing. So their scores in algebra increased from the period when they entered into the course and when they completed the course. That is the second category. And there was a slight decrease in their scores when they were given the test 6 months after the end of the course. So it's very evident that once after a person passes out and after 6 months you are taking the exam, their scores may slightly change or decrease. So when they were inducted into the course, their score was something around this. When they completed the course, then their scores in the exam was highest. And when they were given the test after 6 months of the completion of the course, there was a little bit of decline in their scores after 6 months of the completion of the exam of the course. However, in all the three cases, their scores in the exam differs. So if such is the case, when you have three or more situations in the same sample, on the same sample, then you can apply repeated measures ANOVA or GLM-4 model. And effect size already we have calculated. Now coming to the GLM-5 or mixed design ANOVA. So the mixed factorial, and let's see when do we use this mixed design ANOVA. So if you have one outcome variable which is continuous in nature, then you have one predictor variable, or let's see, no, you have two or more predictor variable. These predictor variable are categorical in nature, and they might be from the different population or from the same population, means both categories. If different also, or if the same, if both are categories are fulfilled and they follow the normal distribution, go for mixed factorial ANOVA or GLM-5. So let's see what this GLM-5 is all about, mixed design ANOVA. So mixed factorial design involves two or more independent variables, as I have said, more than two predictor variable, of which at least one is within subjects, repeated measures factor, and one is at least between group factor, means both are coming from two different populations. So in that case, you will apply this GLM-5 or mixed design ANOVA. So let's take an example. Assume that you conducted an experiment in which you were interested in the extent to which visual distraction affects these younger and older people's learning. Now you have two different people coming from two different sample drawn from two different populations. Okay, you have different situations, means different categories of the outcome variable, and the predictor variable, different categories, means more than two categories, and these categories are drawn from two different populations, so younger and older people, and you want to see the extent to which visual distraction affects the learning. You want to see the extent to which visual distraction affects younger and older people learning and remembering. So again, you are taking two different populations, measuring their learning and remembering, and you are changing the extent of visual distraction, means three or more categories. To do this, you obtain a group of younger adults and a separate group of older adults, means if you could see the decision tree, you'll find that your population is coming from both, means different and same. Okay, both categories. Okay, then in that case, to do this, you obtained a group of younger adults and separate group of older adults and had them learn under three different conditions. Now your predictor variable or independent variable is into three different categories: eyes closed, eyes open and looking at a blank field, and eyes open looking at a distracting field of pictures. So this is a 2 age into 3 distraction condition. So you have two groups of people from different populations, younger and older people, and the situation is 3, means your independent variable or categorical variable is into 3 categories or 3 different distraction conditions. So it will become a mixed factorial design, 2 into 3 mixed factorial design. And let's do it in SPSS. So just open the GLM5, pen data, GLM5, open. Now you have participants. Okay. So you have 4 people from younger generation, 4 people from older generation. Okay. Then you have the closed eyes. Okay. You have the 3 situations. What are these 3 situations? They have to have eyes closed, eyes opened, looking at a blank field, and eyes open, looking at a distracting field of pictures. So closed, simple, and complex, 3 situations. Okay. So with closed eyes, and open eyes looking at distraction pictures. Okay. So you have these 3 situations, and now you want to see that how the whether in all the 3 situations their visual distraction is the same, or means this visual distraction has the same effect on their learning and remembering, or their learning and remembering under different visual distractions differ. So this you want to measure. So go to analyze. Again, since it's a mixed design ANOVA, so you will go for repeated measures, and then you will select the factor named distraction. 3 levels it is. Add, fine. So closed is level first, simple is level 2, and complex is level 3. And then between subject factors you will put this age, because we have 2 categories right now. Previous case we were having only one type of population. Here we have 2 type of populations divided into 2 different ages: younger adults and older people. And then you go to options. So you have to take age, distraction, and this interaction term, age into distraction, descriptive statistics, estimate of effect size, continue. And then we will have this profile plot also. So we will plot age and distraction. So this will create the distraction, age into distraction, interaction term. Then in options, we have to select compare main effects, Bonferroni method. Now continue. Okay. Now see, distraction is sphericity assumed. Again, the significance is 0.000, means there is a difference. The F ratio that you are getting is 19.5. So you can write it like this. F degree of freedom to 1 is equal to 19.5. P is less than 0.05. H naught rejected, which means in all the different situations, and there will be, means whether they are with closed eyes or open eyes with less distraction and open eyes with more distraction, under the 3 different situations, and among the 2 categories, means older and younger people, their level of remembering and learning will be affected by different level of distractions. So age means the older and the younger age, and levels of distraction. Both will affect their learning and remembering capacity. So in all the situations, their learning and remembering capacity will be affected. There will be significant difference, and the effect size in the population is come out to be the partial ET squared. You have 0.675, so it will be the square root of 0.675, which is equal to, now this effect in the population, if you want to see how much it will be, so it comes out to be 0.765 square root is equal to 0.874. So you can see very strong effect, 87.4. So whatever you have experiment you have done on the population sample, that will be having at least the same result you will get at least on the 87.4% of the population. And then you can go for this estimated marginal mean profile plot. And yes, you can also see the test between subjects. So main output you can see there, and then there should be one measurement of test between subjects. Transform variable. Yeah, test between subject effects. So you can also see from here also that F value is coming to be 15.783. You have to report both. So you have to report the first is Felicity assumed situation. Then in this situation, what is the F value? 15.783 is stands statistically significant. Okay, because first you are taking here distraction, 3 levels of distraction. There ANOVA. Okay, that at the 3 different types of distractions, their learning capacity will be different. And here then at different levels of age, their learning and remembering capacity will be different, means their 0.007. Then again it will be just take the square root of 0.725, something around 80. This will come also 80%. That will have an effect size of 80% around. And the same thing, F at degree of freedom 1 and 6, 1 and 1 will come to be 15.783. Significance will be 0.007, means less than 0.05. So null hypothesis rejected. So there exists a significant difference in the learning capacity between different ages. That also you can say, and take the square root of 0.725, and you can say that okay, the effect size will be this much. And then so in both the ANOVA reports you will report, and then you will see this estimated marginal mean. Okay, this profile plot. Okay, so you can see that distraction decreases from this distraction, if you can see it, this is the blue one is category 1, means the first level of distraction, open eyes, that decreases from older to younger generation. Then distraction with this is distraction with closed eyes. Now then distraction with open eyes, looking at less distraction, open eyes with less distractions, less visual distraction, decreases from older to younger adults. And also distraction, that is the third level of distraction, that is more visual distraction with open eyes, decreases from older to younger generation. So as the generation is younger and distraction level is different, so you can see with open eyes That is the level 1 or category 1. Open eyes also distraction level decreases with age, means if people are of this younger generation, we can say from, do we have, no, we can code it as one as uh, older people and two as younger people. So older people with closed eyes have high level of distraction as compared to younger generation with closed eyes. Older people with open eyes and less visual distraction, again their learning and remembering capacity. Okay, okay, this is, we are talking about learning capacity also. Okay, so it will increase. So as the age increases, so learning capacity with in first level of distraction decreases. It also decreases in second level of distraction. It also decreases in third level of decrease of distraction as the age increases. So you can see from this profile plot that under the situation of age also and under the situation of different level of distraction, the learning and remembering capacity differs. So this is all about the 5 kind of GLM models.